Tippet is used to connect your flies to your leader, and like leaders, come in two basic materials, fluorocarbon and monofilament. You might recall from the previous video on leaders that fluorocarbon possesses a few characteristics that may make it more desirable than mono. Those characteristics apply not only to leaders, but to tippets as well, and may have an influence over your decision to fish fluoro tippets over mono tippets. Are you fishing very selective trout? Then you might want to consider fishing fluoro tippet. Are you fishing wild trout that have never seen anglers? Chances are you don't need the advantage of fluoro. So why spend the extra cash? Again, you need to do your own tests on your local waters. If you're just as successful fishing monofilament as you are fluorocarbon, then why spend 3 to 5 times as much money on fluorocarbon? Just fish mono. In general, tippet ranges in sizes from 0x to 7x. As with leaders, smaller numbers before the letter X indicate larger tippet diameters, and therefore stronger tippet. For example, 0x tippet has a strength of around 12 to 15 pounds, while 5x tippet has a strength of about 4 to 5 pounds. One thing to note about tippet is that it doesn't taper like leaders do. So when you buy a spool of tippet, the entire spool is going to be one constant thickness. With at least 7 different sizes available in the world of tippet, how do you know which size to select? First, remember this: the larger your flies, the larger tippet you're going to need. The smaller your flies, the smaller the tippet. If the flies you're fishing are too large for the tippet you're using, your leader won't turn over and you'll get kinks and twists in your tippet. There's also a good chance that your fly is just going to snap right off the tippet on a cast or on a hook set. If your tippet is too large for the flies you're fishing, the flies are going to behave in an overly stiff manner and won't sink as efficiently. There's kind of this generic rule that floats around the fly fishing world that says, whatever fly you're fishing, whatever fly size, take that fly size and divide by 3, and that'll give you your tippet. So for example, if you're fishing a size 18, divide by 3, and that gives you 6. So you could fish tippet as small as 6x with a number 18 fly. If you're fishing a size 12, divide by 3, and that gives you 4x. So you could fish, comfortably around 4x for that fly, and you'd be okay. This rule is very generic, and it isn't always right, but it's actually not a bad place to start either. Sometimes the trout are the final factor in tippet size. To some trout, 4x looks like a giant orange extension cord floating through the water. They'll never take your flies because the tippet is just too visible and too thick to them. So this may force you to fish 5x or smaller, which means you're going to have to be a little more delicate on the hook set and on your casts. And you're going to have to keep in mind that you have less strength during a fight with a big fish. This will also somewhat limit the size of flies you can fish. For example, you can't fish big streamers on 5x. Well, you can, but it's a terrible idea. You're going to snap off lots of streamers and lose lots of fish. So if you're going to fish streamers, use 0x. This is going to do 2 things for you. It's going to give your fly better turnover on your cast, and it's also going to give you extra strength when you're battling big fish that like to eat meat. One of the more useful kind of accessories that these manufacturers tend to sell with their tippet is a tool called a tippet spool. And this is a tippet spool, and you literally push your tippet onto the spool. This particular one comes with rubber stoppers. So these rubber stoppers can come out, like that. Or you can push them together and say I only have 3 spools of tippet on here, and it keeps them a little bit closer. And you attach this to your pack. So when you're fishing, all you have to do is rotate this, get the tippet you want, and pull it out as you fish. So tippet spools can be handy when you're on the river. So in general, smaller flies, smaller tippets. Larger flies, larger tippets. Be sure to check out the worksheet for this video. In it, I provide tables for you to help you identify what size of tippet you're going to need for the flies that you're fishing.